I go home.
Hey everybody, Chad Westport here, and I'm back with another edition of Just One Thing. That's where I go out into the grow community and talk with experienced growers about just one thing they think all new growers should know about. And today I've got an awesome guest for you, somebody that I am familiar with, and I am very excited for the topic that he is bringing. I can't believe we haven't covered this one yet, but I want to say hey to Hemp with GG. How you doing today, sir?
Good, Chad. It's nice to be back on your channel. I know last time I was on your channel, I wasn't able to show my face because here in New York we had somewhat of a gray law. Even though I have a medical card, it's still like, do you really want people knowing? So now that it's a little loose, I'm glad I can show my face. I'm Hemp with GG, and I'm here today to talk about basically training. Beginning training and the importance of training. I feel like when I post some of my gardens and I have a picture, of 6 of my gardens I've done. And when I post these gardens, and Chad will pop this picture up bigger for you guys. When I post these gardens, the first question I usually get is what light you're using or what nutrients you're using. And I think people don't give training enough power. Light is yield, as Dr. Mbikoko would say. Light is yield, and growers' talent, in my opinion, is capturing that light and turning it into sugars. So it's about really filling your space. And everybody gets so stuck up on the light and nutrients, and I think training plays a really big part on capturing not only yield but quality. We all know as a cannabis plant kind of grows, you have that main apical shoot that comes up, and then you have all the lateral boof on it. And our job as a grower is to trick the plant into thinking it has multiples of those apicals. And you get stuck on some channels that say you must top, you must super crop, you must full plant tie down. You must use nets to train it. You must use tie downs. I don't really care what you use as long as you're evening out that, because the top of your plant's always going to receive a hormone to kind of stack and make colas, and then everything underneath that, you'll see that it branches off. And training is just the repetitive process of growing that stem, bending out, and allowing those lower laterals to now be the same apical top. But then at a point, you run out of room where you can't keep growing and bending and growing and bending. And what I think is one of my flaws, even looking at back some of my own pictures, is I would get these tops, and maybe I'm calling them wrong things, but anything that I make to the top of the canopy and turn into, I guess, an apical cola would be considered a top. But I don't want to go into flower until I have a cola built on that, meaning 4 to 5 tight node spacings found at the top of the branch. So the plant is fractal. So if you were to take one of your main leaders, let's say you topped it and you had 4 leaders. If you look at that one leader by itself as an individual plant, it looks just like a normal plant. If you were to, let's say, if you were cloning and you took the bottom of it and stuck it in the dirt, it's still a plant. So they're all apical. They're just repeating themselves on different branches. And if you look at the top of all those tops you brought up, you want to make sure the top of those branches have that 4 to 5 tight node spacing. And then you're looking to put one of those in every single trellis hole. Let's say you had a plant with maybe 8 main stems coming out, and you decide, okay, I'm going to take all 8 of these and I'm going to bend them down and encourage all these lower shoots to come up. The thing is, those lower shoots are either sucker nodes, or they got a little stem and maybe one node on the top. As soon as you bend a branch out, at least in soil, I have to veg for at least 2 weeks until that new branch that I've made a top is now a cola, 4 to 5 tight node spacings, at least a minimum of a 3 to 4. And that top shoot is all I want going into flower. I don't want all that lower boof. And if I need that lower boof, I should have bent out earlier, moved it one invisible trellis hole over, because I put an invisible line either way, and allow that to now fill the next space, grow it into a 4 to 5 inch cola. So when I tell people, they say, when should I flip? I think honestly, space wise, if I had to give an answer, I think 70 is a good bet. I used to do 50 to kind of predict for that stretch. This will again depend kind of on plant count, but I'd say around 70%. But make sure all those top that you brought up earlier on are now colas before going into flowers. If you go into flower with 2 little nodes stacked on the top, you're going to grow a bunch of suckers. And the picture of all my grows there, I see a lot of suckers, and it took me a long time to get there. And the grows that I show, those 6 grows, are definitely, they're wins, you know. But now I want to dial in that last 5%. You know, I think too many people focus on things that are the last 5%. Same thing, not to fall off topic of somewhat training, but humic acids, wetting agents, you know, mycorrhizers, they all help, but they're that kind of last 10%. Learn how to water, get a base, nutrients, and a CalMag. But that's for another one topic. I find not enough growers focus on training. They give the power to the nutrients and the light. And I think the part of growing cannabis is actually a little boring when you figure out, you know, your nutrient schedule and you know how to deal with issues as they arise, but they have charts for all that. You know, it becomes a little boring. So then you start looking at it as more of a therapeutic thing. I go in, sit with my plants, train them up, and you come back the next day and you kind of get to watch them take shape or whatever you were trying to do. So I think training is passionate to me because it is my therapy as well. In the same sense, I don't want to put such a importance on quantity, because there's something to be said about quality as well. You know, it's not all about let's just see if we can squeeze as much as we can in there and get as much as we can. You want some quality. And in the sense you said, what if you let it grow like a Christmas tree? That's where not only you're losing yield, but you are losing quality again, because it's going to isolate that one apical. Instead of if you trained it, you have all those apicals and you have quality throughout all of them. Which there is a picture that I also sent where it shows, you know, not training and training, and you can easily see where the plant really isolated the energy in that top cola and left everything else behind to be boof, where the one on the right, they were able to get multiples of those. So I know there's a lot of subcategories there and I've tampered off a little bit, but in the sense, if you don't train it, you will not only have a suffering of yield, but you will have a suffering of overall quality amount. But the banana crumble grow, which is, it has some blue gelato in there as well, but that banana crumble grow, I think, gives a great example of just having that cola, and really isolating it. So I think if you can start training and understanding that your plant needs to have those multiple colas on top, that's far enough. And then you can start kind of dialing in that where I am at now, where I'm trying to say, okay, I know how to train, I know how to get everything even, but now I want to make sure I have one of those, let's call it pothead terms, donkey dicks in every single trellis hole here, you know, not the donkey dick with a bunch of poof at the bottom. Right. Every branch, look at any branch you got, you're going to have that tight node spacing at the top. And then as you travel down, you'll see it starts to branch off of that main and make its own top. Now, at that point, you have to decide, do I have enough space in my grow space or my flower space to bend it out and make it the same height and grow it into a cola now? Do I have the space? If not, then you got to look at it and say, well, do I need any of these lowers down below? Or am I ready to go to flower and just grow all these tops on the top? And there's a sense where there is lollipopping in vegetation. Of course, I think you should always lollipop before flower. But then there's larf mitigation, which I think happens after flower, after the stretch. Please do not mutilate your plants in the stretching period. They will hate you. They'll either stunt or, even worse, hermaphrodite. So I definitely think if you do lollipopping before flower, you shouldn't have too much unappealing to the eye. I know there's certain things we look at the garden and we're like, oh, we got to fix that. But really, if you do enough lollipopping and really isolate those colas before going into flower, then they'll just be slight larf mitigation from the stretching, which again will be lower on the branch. Now, in the sense of long leg, if you already had a long leg because, you know, you veg way too long and never did any training until you were way up at the top, now you have a long leg, you're lollipopping before veg, and now you're mitigating larf, and this leg just keeps getting longer and longer. And in the same sense, if you talked about the top of the canopy even, and how we use Dr. MJ Coco over on Coco for Cannabis, his Grow Like Calculator, we use that, and he'll say, okay, you have a Smart 8, you're going to hang it at, I'm just giving a number so nobody run away with this, but let's say 16-inch hang height. If you have uneven spheres or colas in your fake trellis hole or real trellis hole, is it 16 inches from this one? Is it 16 inches from this one?
Right.
Like you start to suffer. Not that he doesn't give enough widespread graph, but there's a point where if you do his hang height, you're burning the top of this, especially if it's in the middle of your par map or light map, you're burning the top of it, or you're sacrificing, you know, you're sacrificing one of them. And I think where that even flat canopy comes from, everybody wants to ask me what my light is. Don't matter. You know, in the same sense, people say you can't grow the same strain. There's different techniques you're going to do. It kind of comes back to what you were saying about topping. There's different techniques that are done in different situations. Just because you have two different strains and one is growing tall and one is growing short, you just then change the training. You're obviously not going to do the same training on both of them. So I kind of ran away with my thoughts there, but definitely training.
I appreciate your time and I appreciate you bringing your knowledge here. And I want to make sure that everybody else knows where they can find you. And everybody who's watching, these are also down in the show description, but I'll spell them for you down here too. You've mentioned your show. Guys, go check out his YouTube channel. It is Hemp with GG. You get some good tutorials. You get weekly shows. Trust me, guys, well worth it. You're gonna learn something. Also, over on Instagram, this is where you're gonna see all these pretty pictures that we've been showing today. That's Hemp with GG. And lastly, you're pretty darn active on the Cocoa for Cannabis website, which is a website I absolutely love. The cocoa knowledge there is unbelievable. But we mentioned the light calculator. That is one of the most invaluable resources we have on the internet for ourselves. So I'd like to get that out there. Is there anywhere that I'm missing or anything that you'd like to say or plug before we sign off?
I also have Sunday shows every Sunday, 4:20 p.m. EST. I do pop-up lives. I do grow series. I do full review series on equipment. And other than that, Chad, it's been absolutely amazing. I'm glad that the cannabis world is evolving and that I'm able to be here today and show my face. And for the people out there that are still struggling, change is definitely coming. So growers love everyone.
Amen, dude. Again, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of Just One Thing. It's been fun, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace out, everybody.
Westport.